It's important to state that this exodus, as it were, of people moving back to their home states is not happening in the north alone. It's also happening in the south. You also have people who are not originally from here, who live and work here, going back to their villages. You have that happening even during census. So you find that people are going back to their villages to go and be counted. And that, it would seem, is some sort of tradition that Nigerians have been imbibing for years.
No, not in this particular situation. The reason is most Southerners did not return, and specifically the Southeast, for example. Most people in the Southeast did not return to the Southeast to register to vote. I'm talking about the opportunity to vote now. That's the issue. And quite frankly, you know that a significant percentage of the population of the Southeast, and to some extent the Southwest, reside in the northern parts of Nigeria. So if they're leaving because they are worried about safety and security, and they're registered to vote there, that would have a significant impact on the business of not just winning the majority, but having the spread. So that's separate from the issue of the traditional movement. This movement is more of a consequence of the concern for safety and security.
That is also happening down south. I mean, I do know.
Not in any level of comparison.
In the manner, I do not want to, go into the detail of that because we do not have empirical evidence as to, what is the population of people moving up north or moving down south or moving southeastwards. We do not have those figures, and we do not have any evidence to point that one is more than the other. But the elections have been shifted, and it would seem that everybody is trying to come to grips with what has happened. How is your party adjusting to this? Because it would seem they also say that they were not happy about it, and it would seem that they were also affected, even though people are saying that your party clamored for this.
Well, what my party clamored for, was to ensure that there was sufficient level of distribution of PVCs. That was the issue. And also the card readers. And also ensuring that INEC had trained its ad hoc staff and ready to go for the election.
So do you think...
Those were the issues.
Do you think now that the new date of March the 8th satisfies, to a large extent, that craving for more time for people to collect their PVCs or for INEC to distribute? Depends on how you look at it, whether it's INEC that was ready or the people not ready to pick up their cards. Do you think that that new date puts to rest whatever anxieties or whatever doubts you had about whether or not people were picking it up or whether INEC was ready?
I believe so. And I think, and I'm hearing more and more now, even from security agents, that the extension will put paid to the business of postponement. So we will have elections on the new scheduled dates. Again, I think everybody will be reasonably happy.
Let me bring in some facts and figures again, because you talked about 2011, that it was far off. The situation is different at that time compared to now. This election dispensation for this period, don't forget, Ekiti and Osun, they had elections. INEC went in there and distributed the permanent voter cards. But what was the percentage of those who came out to vote? Look at Ekiti, for instance. How many people? It wasn't up to 300,000 that returned the governor. And so look at that percentage.
Yeah, but the Ekiti situation is different from this huge issues that we face today nationwide. Yeah, but that most Nigerians are concerned about.
The point
I'm not sure that the comparison... I know where you're going with the argument. You're talking about the percentage of participation.
Which we've seen over the years. And we've seen this year and last year.
Well, let me tell you, from what we know, this presidential election is attracting and will deliver a much higher level of voter participation than what we've seen before. Because Nigerians are poised. They are more focused on what the issues are. They want results, they demand them, and understandably so. And I think going forward, and I believe President Jonathan in the end will win the election, but we'll be better prepared to deal with these issues.
Do you think there's a ploy to deliberately disenfranchise some people? I mean, if 14 local governments that are considered not very secure can have the highest number of PVC distributions, how is it that the rest of the country is not getting the same amount.
Well, that's the question for INEC to answer. I don't believe that Chairman Jega would set out on his own to try to deliver an election that would be unfair to the one party. I'm not so sure that I'm saying that, but I'm saying that there is a lot of curiosity as to what is really happening with the business of distribution. For example, and you make the point, I didn't want to go there, so I didn't kind of alarm this system and situation any further than it's been alarmed. How do you explain in the Northeast, in Borno State, for example, the bedrock of Boko Haram and internally displaced people have a more PVC level distribution than Lagos?
What did the party find?
Well,
What did the party think went wrong?
well, it's not quite clear, but it really is.
So this is speculation?
Well, it's very curious as to what's going on. I'm not prepared to level any serious allegations against INEC.
But your party has already. I mean, I don't know if you've been listening to the conversations, but
Yes.
in the last 2-3 days, your party has come out very strongly to ask the same questions. And yesterday, they put very pointed accusations against Professor Jega. Are you saying that what your party is saying is not directly affecting your personal level
No, that's
of
not what I'm saying.
confidence?
What my party is saying was that INEC was not ready to conduct elections and would not have been ready for this coming Saturday, the 14th. That's the
How
issue.
did your party know that? Is your party a part of INEC?
Distribution of PVCs and card readers. Those have remained the issues.
Let's just
Those
step
are
back a
remaining
little
issues.
bit. In 2011, about 70 million people registered for the elections, and less than 50 million or thereabouts came out to vote. That's about 51%. I mean, INEC has said we have about 60-something% of this level of distribution. Is that not enough to go for the elections?
I don't believe it's enough. You're talking about, if the numbers are right.
Remember the figure?
Yes.
70 million.
Yes.
What we have now is about a little over 68 million. The figures dropped, and we have 61% level of distribution. And you say that's not enough to go for elections?
I don't believe it is, because you go with a 61 level of PVC distribution. The same people who are carrying on today about how the elections are being planned to be rigged by PDP or whatever will be the same one on the rooftops shouting about how the elections are not credible. I don't believe that it's 61% level.
I do know that INEC, as of last week, they updated
Yes.
that figure to 65.5. Now, I do not know whether the figure has changed from the time when, because that's the latest figure that we had.
Sorry, yesterday it was 69.69%, they said.
So we're approaching, we're getting closer to 70% distribution of it. But, you know, taking you back to that conversation as to what your party is saying and how that affects your level of confidence in INEC. You know, Femi Fani-Kayode, who's the media director of the president's campaign organization, of the PDP's campaign organization, made very pointed accusations against Professor Jega, accusing him of having secret meetings with the APC. Are you aware of that?
I am aware of those allegations.
Yeah.
I'm only going to speak about facts as I know them. Now, those allegations are out there. Just like the allegations that Mr. President was about to sack Chairman Jega. I'm only going to deal with reality here. The fact of the matter is that INEC wasn't ready to have conducted the elections on the 14th, this coming Saturday. And now we have the extension, 6 weeks, for them to move the level of PVC's distribution, get the card readers out there, get their ad hoc staff trained and ready to go. I'll give you an example. While I was in Imo last week, Owerri North local government happens to be the local government I come from. In one ward, I can tell you this, one ward, the entire PVC numbers had not been received. And we have these unusual things in several communities across the country. We have the opportunity now to get them right. I like for us to focus going forward, have the confidence that this extension gives all parties the opportunity to get this thing right.
It's-
Nigerians want it right.
It is difficult then, you know, if you say that you're aware of these allegations, even though you only want to deal with reality. It is difficult then to separate this from, you know, is it the rumor that Professor Jega was going to be removed or sacked or resign, or, you know, his tenure was already approaching expiration and he was going to leave office. It's difficult to separate them because the moment a party begins to lose confidence, is your party saying very clearly that they're beginning to lose confidence in the leadership of INEC?
When you see some of the things that have transpired, INEC saying before the security chiefs went in to deal with the facts of security, that they were ready to go. And yet what was on the ground suggested that they weren't ready to go. Any normal person would be quite curious as to what's going on. Here we go. What we're just hearing now, that PDP is in collusion, the Nigerian military, to rig the election. How much more ridiculous can we get with this?
You think it's ridiculous?
Oh, absolutely. I think we're...
Nothing completely, nothing factual, no iota of truth.
Absolutely not. And this president was clear, again last night, that the elections will hold, there'll be a handover come May 29th. Of this year.
Well, the APC,
so
the APC just didn't make that allegation.
Yes.
They made it based on the basis of a particular audio file that's been making the round online. I don't know if you've been privy to it.
Yeah, but do you... Look, listen, I want to deal with reality. The Nigerian military...
The reality is that that audio file is online. That's a reality.
Well, just like the reality is that there are, for example, in Borno State, a very high level of distribution of PVCs, and a much lower level in Lagos and Ogun and some other areas. Now, you're going to have these issues, and political parties can get on with how they perceive things are.
We have to
Let's
wind
deal
down.
with reality so we can move forward.
We have to wind down, but the thing is, I mean, let me go again back in history because facts are sacred. You know, in 2011, the professor chairman of INEC, elections were going to hold. He came forward by himself and said, well, we have logistic issues. And so they moved the elections by 2 weeks. Don't you think it would have been a lot more believable? The PDP wouldn't be, perhaps, maybe borrow your word, laboring to make their point that INEC is not ready, given this, this, and this. Don't you think it would have been more believable for INEC to, look, say that themselves, even if it's a day or two, or let people go out there and see that they are not ready, rather than PDP saying, look, INEC is not ready, in spite of what the Commission has said, that, look, security reasons, we have to consider human lives.
I'm not sure that if there weren't real security concerns about the elections going forward on the 14th and the 28th, that INEC would have listened to any political party that wanted to influence its timetable. INEC is independent. I believe they would have gone on with these elections were they not mindful of the true security concerns on the ground. So I'm not so sure it was a PDP pressure. I think it was more of dealing with the reality that there were real security concerns on the ground that they needed to address. And the security agencies now have more opportunity to deal with that. And INEC also has a better opportunity now to get itself ready so we can get on with the elections.
So you're saying that your party has not found out the method of PVC distribution in Borno State to back up what they say, that they think something has gone wrong with the increased, as they put it, number of people who have collected the PVCs?
I think what is important now, Chamberlain, is that we have enough time, no more excuses from all sides. PDP is ready for the elections.
From all sides?
Yes, absolutely. The 6 weeks is good enough time frame now for all parties to get ready, and let's get on with it. So Nigerian people will make the decision they're anxious to make.
All right, Mr. Jerry Chukwueke is a member of the PDP Presidential Campaign Committee on Contact and Mobilisation. Thank you for coming on this.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Thank you, everybody.